Yeah, I'm back with another video. Sorry, I'm looking kind of homey and stuff. I got somebody gonna be working on my heating. Something's going on with that, and it's a little chilly in here. Anywho, I haven't really been consistent with my videos and stuff like I should. On being on social media. I really don't really make long videos. I make shorts, and it's something I need to work on. This 2026. Get on your grind, do what you gotta do. That's the whole point. So, but I have a life too. I have other things I have going on, and been busy and stuff. So, but I'm gonna make time, for my supporters and stuff out there. I'm gonna make time for y'all, and I'm gonna get better. But anywho, I wanted to let y'all know that I did have my daughter Nyla a year ago. She's a beautiful, healthy, happy little girl. She's doing great. She's hitting all her milestones. She's learning how to walk and everything like that. She's now on whole milk. She's not drinking formula anymore, so thank God for that. And she's eating her solids. She's a picky eater, but that's something I would talk to her pediatrician about. She has a appointment coming up anyway for checkups and shots. So her 1 year old checkup. So we'll talk about that. Anywho, that's not what I wanted to discuss. I wanted to discuss another matter. I just had a miscarriage on Wednesday. I didn't want to tell nobody that I was pregnant because I wanted to keep that a secret until I know I was further along in my pregnancy and everything was going to be, progressing and it was going to be healthy and stuff. So that was not the case. Basically, I think I conceived the baby somewhere. Well, I'm not going to say baby. I'm going to get to that part. I conceived somewhere between September, October. I don't really know because my periods are irregular. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. So I have a fertility issue. So I'm very blessed to even have my 4 kids. So I know have kids back to back. My kids are 4, 5, 6 years apart. And my oldest son is 16. My oldest daughter is 11. My youngest son is 5, going on 6 tomorrow. His birthday's tomorrow. And my youngest daughter, she's 1. She just turned 1 year old not too long ago. So those are my 4 kids. And then here I go hearing about I'm pregnant again. Because I was on birth control, the mini pill. My oncologist told me to come off of that because it wasn't good for the DVT, the blood clot in my leg. I told you I was having complications when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was on blood thinners for a long time. I just came off of it because my oncologist said that it's no longer a threat, and it's not messing with my blood flow, and everything's good, and I'm able to do my physical therapy because I have other physical issues. So she told me to come off of the mini pill, the birth control. So I ended up getting pregnant, and I started experiencing all of these really horrible symptoms. So I was like, okay, let me go and take the test, the home pregnancy test. I took 2, and it came out positive. So I set up a doctor's appointment with my primary care doctor, and I think it was a couple of days before my birthday. It was in December though. My birthday was December 19th. I just turned 39. So I had set up an appointment, and she basically did the blood test in the urine. It came out positive, and my levels were very high. So she said, well, you might be between 8 to 10 weeks. So I was like, okay. And she was like, well, just keep up with your appointments with your OBGYN doctor. So I set that up. Actually, I was supposed to have my first appointment yesterday, but I ended up having a miscarriage. So somewhere around the end of December, beginning of January, I started to experience basically like when I went to use the bathroom and I wiped, it was like a pinkish brownish discharge. And so I got on the phone and called the triage nurse, and she said, oh, that's normal, and some women do experience that. And I was like, that's crazy because I've never experienced anything like that when pregnant with my other kids. Like I said, I'm not used to this. I've never had any kids back to back, and I never experienced any bleeding, any type of symptoms, severe like this. So she was like, well, go to the hospital if it gets really bad. And my husband was saying the same thing. So I put off on Monday. I put off on Tuesday. So when Wednesday came, I was on my way going to to go to the store. I had to use the bathroom. A gush of fluid came out. Then next thing you know, a bunch of blood was coming out, big blood clots. I mean, it was flowing. I was like, felt like I was hemorrhaging, which I was. And I got to the emergency room. I started to feel pain, like a cramping around my pelvic area. I was already feeling that from the beginning. The pain in my pelvic and in my abdominal. I'm thinking it's just indigestion, gas, maybe constipation, or something was going on. Because you have those normal symptoms when you're pregnant, but this was going on in my back. It was radiating from my back to my neck to my shoulder blade, all in my face, and I started to have a headache, and then it started to go in my legs. It was like all over the place. I know I had physical issues with my muscles and nerves, and I'm going to therapy for that, and I've seen other doctors about that, and I've had some MRIs and stuff done, but this has nothing to do with what I was experiencing with this pregnancy. This was terrible. So, I mean, I was bleeding so bad. So I went to the ER, and they had me sitting there in a emergency room lobby with all these sick people for about an hour, bleeding to death through my clothes, so that it's taking me straight to the back. I don't know. It was crazy. And when I finally was seen and everything, they, did put me on IV, gave me fluid, ran all this tests. I had to have ultrasound and 2 ultrasounds done. I had to have the pelvic exam. All this stuff was being done on me. They gave me all this medication. So, and I had to basically wear these like big pads and stuff. So the blood was, but even when I was wearing all that stuff, they couldn't stop the blood. And I'm like, do I need to have a blood transfusion or whatever? Because I'm anemic. But they did a test on me, said I didn't need that, but I was just losing so much blood, and I was bleeding through these pads. I had like 4 or 5 pads on. I was still bleeding through all of that. It was all on the floor. The doctor had to come in and clean up the blood. My husband and my daughter was freaking out. It was crazy. So I'm like, Lord have mercy, what's going on? So I called my family, and they was freaking out too. Everybody thought I was about to die and stuff, because you can lose your life when you're losing a lot of blood and stuff. They did tell me I was basically had to be on watch because it was critical because of all the blood loss. But like I said, they did not say I needed a blood transfusion, which was kind of crazy to me. But anywho, after they discharged me, they said that I was going to continue to bleed, and they gave me this medicine. They said to clear me out so I won't be contaminated. So when I went home, it got worse. I mean, you talking about what I just explained to you, what went down? I mean, no. At this point, it was, oh my God, it was like, I can't explain it. It was like a death scene. It was the biggest clot I've ever seen. I mean, it was bigger than my hands, and it fell out onto the floor, and my husband was terrified. He was like, that looked like an organ. I was like, oh my God, no. But I couldn't go back to the hospital because I just literally left. It was bad. I was like, oh my God. So when I looked at the paperwork was saying that I conceived. The egg was fertile. It attached itself to my uterine wall, my uterus, but it wasn't growing. So it never grew into a baby. It was never an embryo or fetus. It was none of that. It was just an old egg that was produced. It came out, was fertile. You know the process when you get pregnant, and it was just sitting there making my body toxic, So all this stuff I was experiencing, it was serious. I could have had died, So thank God I did get to the emergency room in time. And I just couldn't believe it that this was happening. Normally, you will hear stories where women say that the baby is caught in their tubes, which I'm glad that didn't happen, because then I had surgery, had my tube removed. But it was none of that. It was just basically the baby was not growing. Even though I had high HCG levels and I was experiencing pregnancy symptoms, there was nothing there. And in a way, I was sad. Then again, I was relieved because I was really not trying to get pregnant again. Like I said, I was supposed to be on birth control, and my oncologist was telling me to come off of it because of the DUT. So it put me in a really vulnerable situation. I was like, because Nobody, I can't speak for everybody else. Maybe some people enjoy having their kids back to back because they want their kids to be growing up together and want to grow up with their kids and stuff like that. Me, on the other hand, I wouldn't be able to do nothing like that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. It takes a village to raise your kids. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. You have to have a lot of patience. And I love all my kids, but sometimes it can get very overwhelming, and I know a whole lot of people can speak on that behalf. It can, get there. And even if you have all the support system, it's still rough. And at the end of the day, all this stuff going on in the world and stuff, just be thankful for life. Be thankful that you have everything you need to be able to provide. So I just didn't feel like I needed any more kids. So I'm not going to get up here crying and, losing my mind about it, being depressed. I'm really just glad it's over with. I'm glad I know what I know. And, I'm glad I'm still alive because all the blood I lost. And I'm still weak. I'm still recovering. I'm on bed rest. I haven't really been anywhere. I had to literally reschedule my daughter's doctor's appointment she had today for January. I've rescheduled it for January the 29th, so she'll be going to her doctor's appointment on that day, but not today. I'm still bleeding, but it's not heavy, but I'm still feeling pain and I'm still feeling somewhat weak. I'm trying to get better, so it's a lot, one day at a time. I'm looking kind of beat. I look rough, as you can see. So one day at a time. Like I said, I give it to God. And, the doctors called me and told me that they was going to get me to come in, to check up on me and stuff, and within a couple of weeks, and to get me on some type of birth control method that would be safe for me. So that way to prevent me from getting pregnant again, because I can't go through that again. That's a scary situation. I couldn't imagine women, having back-to-back miscarriages. That was my first one. And that's gonna be my last one. I'm not going through that again. I'm too old anyway. I'm almost in my 40s. Yeah, I don't have time for all of that. I'm just thankful for the kids I do have. So, it's all about, living your life. And like Martin say, live your life to the fullest and ride it till the wheels come off. So, that's what it's all about. It's 2026, and we try to do bigger and better things, and and make our money. So that was the end of my story time. Oh yeah, about the pill situation. The pill that they gave me, I had to Google it. I found out that the pill was basically for women that's miscarrying or want to have an abortion. So that's why I was experiencing, when I went home, all that blood, and that blood clot came out because of the pill that they gave me. They had to clear me out, and it was extreme. But that's the end of story time. And like I said, I'm going to be starting to be more consistent on videos. I just have to have some type of, energy and, ideas, good ideas. If you can give me any good ideas on what content I should make, let me know. Comment down below. Subscribe. And thanks for watching my video. All right. Bye.